So let's talk a little bit about integrating the ego, about including the ego and transcending it. So prior to the spiritual bug hitting you, you usually do not look beyond just the limited, apparently separate body mind identity. And when you take yourself to be the body and the mind alone, without any real connection to the rest of the cosmos or to consciousness, you perceive yourself as a meaningless, powerless fragment in a hostile world. And this creates the duality of fear and desire, as we've discussed earlier. And without the awareness of the greater stability and connectedness with the greater stability and feeling of connectedness that arises with the knowledge of inseparability from the cosmos, the dual state of fear and desire is a very unpleasant and pain ridden state of existence. But once awakening happens, or greater awareness arises about the nature of reality, one sees that the apparently separate body mind is just a limitation that has been imposed upon itself by consciousness. Because the body and the mind are vibrations that arise from the source, which is pure consciousness. And it is this source that is giving rise to the sense of a separate body mind entity. And this source forgets itself entirely when the awareness of spirituality is not present, and takes itself to purely be the body and the mind, and nothing more than that, and therefore suffers the duality of fear and desire. But once this suffering reaches a certain threshold of intensity, it becomes clear that a deeper solution to suffering needs to be found, and that gives rise to the spiritual search, which reveals the fact that consciousness is the is the sole reality. Pure consciousness is the sole reality, appearing to itself as the entire cosmos, as the universe, and also this apparently separate individual body mind. So the basic shift in identity that happens as the spiritual search progresses is taking yourself to be just the body and the mind without any real connection to anything else, to seeing that you are actually the universe playing the role of this character, this apparently separate body mind temporarily. So there is a limbo phase in between in which one is neither identified with the ego nor is one established enough in pure awareness and aware enough to see that the ego is being generated by pure awareness. So it is in this phase that the concept of killing the ego arises. But killing the ego is unnecessary and often rather masochistic, because there is nothing there that can kill the ego. It is through the will of awareness or God or consciousness that the ego arises. What has to be killed is the sense that you are nothing more than the ego. Once a deep and mature understanding of spirituality has been established, it is seen that the ego is just the script for the individual character in the cosmic movie, which exists in its entirety in a state of absolute perfection in the mind of God, or the cosmic mind, or the one mind that emanates from pure awareness. So every individual mind is like a branch of the one mind, which is the mind of God. And this one mind is eternally in perfect harmony with itself. And the roles of the specific branches of this one mind, which arise as our individual minds, are being orchestrated with mathematical precision by the infinite intelligence of consciousness itself. So, when this is realized, one no longer strives to kill the ego, but merely allows the ego to express itself as it occurs spontaneously in consciousness here and now. And this body mind plays its role to the T in the cosmic drama of evolution and growth and the human expression of consciousness, which is the pinnacle of evolution on this planet, which has been brought about by consciousness over a period of millions to maybe even billions of years. So the ego is evolutionary baggage basically, which we have to include as part of ourselves and go beyond or transcend, which means that we are no longer driven by egoic motivations of fear and desire because we see our connectedness to that which is perfect, eternal, infinite, immortal, and indestructible. So the ego is, it loses its quality of being a tyrant and becomes a servant of your true self, which is pure consciousness. So the conflict that arises between the new identity of pure awareness and the old identity of just ego is resolved eventually by seeing that these two apparently contradictory paradigms are just the same one reality expressing itself. The deeper, absolute, immutable reality of awareness plays as the temporary, finite, limited ego in millions of different ways to give rise to the cohesive, harmonious cosmic drama, story of humanity, basically. So, stage one in the spiritual journey is utter identification with the ego. Stage two is the limbo phase in which the reorientation of identity is taking place. And stage three is the perfectly integrated individuality and unity, in which the ego has been seen as something being expressed by the absolute truth of pure awareness and is allowed to express without getting in one's own way by subscribing to concepts such as killing the ego.